We are back on Big Board Sports. College basketball at the forefront. We know Siena winning in overtime last night. Big win for the Saints against the Gales. But a lot going on in college basketball. And we've always talked here recently about Chris Mullen, the job that he's not doing at St. John's. Then they just have a week. After losing 11 straight games, St. John's has won 3 in a row, 2 games over top 4 ranked teams. And at the time of the wins, Duke was 4th. Villanova was number 1 last week.
And you said, what, that was the first time St. John's has beaten the top-ranked team in the country since Mullen was playing for them.
Yes, since Mullen was playing, back to 85, yeah. And they beat Marquette. That was their 3rd straight win. So Red Storm now just 2-11 in the Big East. They're back to 500, 13-13 this season. 8 of the losses have come by 7 or fewer points. Chris Mullen, his win-loss record, 35-56 in his 3rd season with St. John's, 10-39 in the Big East. That's not a good win-loss record, but I don't think anybody in the front office, in the athletic director's office, is all that concerned. And then you look at what they've done recently, and probably, if nothing else, a vote of confidence for Chris Mullen and what he is doing right now. Zach Braziller joins us from the New York Post, who's been following the Red Storm and a little bit on Joseph Girard III, JG3. Good morning, Zach. Roger Weiland, Chris Honorado in Albany, New York. Thanks for a few minutes on Big Board Sports.
Hey, no problem. How you guys doing?
What's up,
great.
Zach?
We're great. We were really hammering pretty hard on Chris Mullen for a couple of weeks leading up to the last 3 games here. I guess we should back off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you guys were alone. A lot of people were taking their shots. He got killed pretty bad in Indiana after they got beat up by Butler. I even wrote a pretty critical column about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The season just wasn't going the way they had hoped, but the last 3 games, it's been a different team. Obviously the wins over Duke and Villanova, then Marquette. It's been a strange season because they go 10-2 in the non-conference, and you think they have a shot at the NCAAs, and then everything goes wrong in their first 11 of the Big East, and now here they are winning 3 in a row. So it's been a real odd year for them.
Well, what are their postseason chances right now?
I think they could get the NIT. I think the NIT is realistic. Their last 5 league games are manageable. It's not impossible. They've already gotten their 4 with Xavier and Villanova out of the way, the 2 best teams in the league. I think if they could go 3-2 in these last 5 and then win a game in the Big East tournament, I think the NIT is possible, which to me would be a really nice accomplishment when you look at where they were. I was asked yesterday by someone, to evaluate Chris, and it's just, to me, it's really hard because they came in this year with a really thin roster. They lost their second-best player, Marcus Levette, on Thanksgiving to a knee injury. He's missed the whole year since then. And it's been a really, really tough season. It's hard to really judge him right now as a coach. I mean, I told the person, I think you have to wait till the end of the year and even maybe next year when they're going to have a full roster to really see who he is. That said, I do think he needs some help on that staff. I think they need to bring in an experienced former head coach. That's where it's at right now.
Zach, I read one of your most recent pieces about this and the meal that Chris Mullen took his players out for and how that may have kind of turned the tide here a little bit. It was a couple of days before the Duke game, if I'm remembering correctly. Can you shed a little more light on what happened, why Mullen decided to take his players out to lunch and what really happened in that meeting?
I mean, one thing I had heard about the program is they have too much NBA mentality, where they kind of, obviously Chris and Mitch Richmond are NBA guys, and so is Greg St. Jean, another one of the assistants, and that maybe this NBA mentality of just kind of, they expect more from the players than really college kids should be expected of. And, I think that was a way of him to kind of, maybe humanize himself a little more. That's not to say they don't have relationships with the kids. And I was just told it was no assistance. It was just him and the players. And, it was just something I think that the players really appreciated. But I think the thing you have to look at, and I think it's a little unfair to just say that lunch was really what's turned this around. I mean, they played really hard for him all year. You know, they're 0-11 and they were playing really hard for it, which to me speaks volumes of him as a coach. You know, his X's and O's is clearly a work in progress. He had never coached before coming to St. John's, only his third year as a head coach. But to me, the big thing about a coach is getting your guys will play hard for you. And that, to me, is one thing they've always done for him. And when you're 0-11, you're still playing hard. To me, that really says a lot about him and about what the players think of him.
Now, I think there's got to be a learning curve here for sure. And maybe we're a little hard on Mullen here just because of his name. Just because his name is Chris Mullen doesn't mean he's going to come in and all of a sudden take St. John's to the national championship game. It's a lot harder than that. I think he's finding that out. But what he's done here recently and the wins they've had over these ranked teams, if you are a St. John's fan, I think you maybe see the light at the end of the tunnel. I want to skip ahead to Joseph Girard III. You paid attention to him. We pay close attention to him. And, Zach, since Michigan a few weeks ago offered that kind of opened the floodgates, and now it is Oklahoma, Syracuse, Washington, St. John's. Ohio State was the most recent, and now maybe some interest from the likes of Villanova and Duke. How about some thoughts on from where you sit and you cover college basketball, our star player from Glens Falls, JGIII?
Yeah, I mean, he's blowing up, obviously. You know, when I heard about the connection with Beeline and his dad, that clearly made sense that Michigan would offer. But, you know, talking to some recruiting people and people who've coached him, I mean, it sounds like the last year he's really taken major steps. You know, I had heard around this time last year that he probably was more of a mid-major type player, but that's clearly changed in the last year. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten a lot better, where he's a no-doubt high major, and clearly big schools are paying attention. And look, we could talk all about athleticism and projections, and that's always everyone wants to talk about. But you know what? The thing people forget is how important. You know, the most important thing in basketball is putting the ball in the basket, and that's clearly what he does, just at such a high rate. And you know, I only see this improving. I mean, he's going to play big time basketball this summer on the AAU circuit with Albany City Rocks. I only see this getting higher and higher now. You know, it just seems like Michigan's the perfect fit when you consider the relationship with Beeline and his dad. But I mean, I think it's, you know, I know St. John's really likes him, and you know, it seems like he would be a great fit for Villanova. I always see his recruiting getting higher and higher.
Zach, when one big offer comes in, as you cover the college basketball scene and especially the recruiting trail, when one big offer like Michigan comes in, and Girard already had Washington, but when the Big Ten comes calling, is it indicative then that okay, you figure other schools are coming after that? Is that how this works? Like one big offer comes in and it opens up everybody else's eyes. Let's go look at this kid from Glens Falls.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. I mean, you see that. I saw that a lot in football in New York City when I covered high school sports. When one big school would offer like a kid from the city, all of a sudden a ton would follow. And I think that's clearly the same in basketball. You know, people see, well, when the one school does offer it, it makes it, you know, acceptable, or more people realize, well, if they offer, there's obviously got to be something about him. Well, we should offer. You know, I think that's clearly how it works. I notice that even more in football, where when the one big school offers, it kind of everyone follows. But I think you can definitely say the same for basketball.
And I see LeVar Ball is looking for more publicity, and we all give it to him. And you did this morning, and you wrote about LeVar, who said that he won't let Lonzo re-sign with the Lakers if they don't take LaMelo and LiAngelo. So he's going to take his other two kids, or when first of all, Lonzo's not even a free agent for a couple more years. He's a rookie. So he's got a few more years where he can even move anywhere. But when the time comes, if all of his kids aren't in the Lakers, they're going to play for another team.
I mean, I wonder what country they're going to be playing in. You know, I mean, LiAngelo was going to be a reserve at UCLA, and from what I had heard, that was very generous, and he really should have been playing in like the WCC and playing for like a San Francisco or something like that. He's not an NBA player. LaMelo doesn't know what defense is. I mean, it's really funny stuff. I think eventually Lonzo's basically just going to tell his dad to get lost. I mean, I think eventually in a year or two, you're going to see that. I mean, it's, you know,
it can't happen soon
one
enough.
nonsensical thing after another with this guy. I mean, he says by year 3. I mean, his son won't be an unrestricted free agent until year 6. Year 5, he'll be a restricted free agent where the Lakers can match any deal. And, you know, who knows? Maybe the Lakers just get tired of it and just trade him for a first-round pick because he's a good player. But, I mean, the Lakers have played their best this year without him when he's been hurt the last few weeks. So, you know, it's entertaining. The guy never stops. He thinks he knows everything about everything, and he clearly knows very little about very little. So it's still interesting to follow, though.
Yeah, he knows how to generate the publicity. There's no doubt about that. Hey, Zach, we appreciate a few minutes here on Big Board Sports on ESPN Radio in Albany, and we'll be back in touch as we all follow the college basketball storylines as we head to March. And, of course, we'll be paying close attention to see what Joseph Girard III does eventually when he announces where he's going to attend school.
Hey, no problem, guys. Have a good one, all right?
Thanks,
too,
Zach.
man.
You too, man.